My dear friends, this video will reveal truths that few know. He will show how technology, which should serve humanity, can become oppression instrument. After watching, your view of privacy and freedom never, but it will be the same. If you value human dignity, subscribe to this channel. Leave your like and write freedom is everyone's right in the comments. We will speak on the technological surveillance imposed on Uyghurs Muslims in China and how Chinese government uses digital innovations to monitor every aspect of their lives. China has developed the most sophisticated surveillance system ever seen, and what has been the result? Despite the digital eyes that all observe, the believers of believers remain for Allah, finding forms of preserve your faith even under constant observation. So if you believe that privacy is a fundamental right, watch this video until the end. We are in 2020. China has established itself as a world leader in technologies, surveillance and facial recognition. During this period, the Uyghurs Muslims in Xinjiang became the most watched on the planet. Each movement, each conversation, each facial expression was recorded and analyzed by algorithms. Even smile to someone could generate suspicions. Facial recognition cameras were installed on each corner, mosque, market and residence entry. Friends, before 2016, Xinjiang already had a significant security system, but what came later transformed the entire region in a mass surveillance laboratory. The government implemented what it called Hearted Eyes and Skynet project. As a result, it is estimated that more than 500,000 facial recognition cameras were installed only in Xinjiang. Those that did not capture images sufficiently clear were constantly replaced by more advanced models. At that time, say a simple prayer in Xinjiang without being detected became practically impossible. If an Uyghur were caught downloading VPN applications to circumvent censorship or communicate with relatives abroad, could be sent to a field of re-education. All cell phones were routinely inspected at control posts scattered throughout the region. Friends, the authorities feared any form of communication not monitored between Muslims, then developed a system where even the expressions, facials were analyzed in search of signs of religious extremism. The result was a population living in constant fear, aware of always being observed. Communities in the region were forced to install surveillance applications in their own phones. To ensure full control over the population, sensors, biometrics were installed in public and private spaces. Each Muslim Uyghur was forced to deliver their biometric data, fingerprints, scanning of iris, DNA and voice samples. So you can imagine what it's like to live without a moment of privacy. You might think that under such intense vigilance, any expression of Islamic faith, it would be impossible in Xinjiang. Friends, we want to clarify that after siege technological, there would hardly be any space for religious manifestations. But the faith of Uyghurs Muslims is like water, even when blocked by technological barriers, finds small cracks to flow and manifest in shapes almost imperceptible. This is a testimony of the resilience of sincere faith. There are reports of Uyghurs that developed coded languages and subtle gestures to express your devotion. These reports are evidence that the human spirit cannot be completely controlled, even with the most advanced surveillance technologies. China may have built a digital system to monitor every aspect of life of Muslims, but the intimacy between the believer and Allah remains inviolable. There are still Uyghurs Muslims who find moments of devotion in small everyday gestures that the algorithms cannot interpret as religious. During meals, some make short breaks that serve as discreet substitutes for Thanksgiving prayers. Security specialists digital confirm that even the most sophisticated surveillance systems have limitations, and that human creativity will always find ways to preserve what considers sacred, even be the most attentive digital eyes. Friends, it is estimated that more than 2.5 million surveillance cameras are operating throughout Xinjiang. We would like to share with you a story, surprising that will surely impress them. Faith is certainly a special gift that transcends physical and digital barriers. Allah, He says in the Holy Qur'an that He is closer to the human being than his jugular vein. China involuntarily demonstrated this truth in Xinjiang. This case happened in 2021. The region was under the most advanced surveillance system in the world. The government had implemented what it called Safe City, where each social interaction was monitored by artificial intelligence. As a result, they lived in constant self-censorship, fearing that any gesture could be bad interpreted. In this context, a young software engineer who worked briefly in the surveillance system shared your experience in an anonymous online forum. I will report your words exactly as he wrote. I worked in a company that provided technology for the Urumqi surveillance system, and he said, everything I witnessed, I will share with my own words. He said, it was that week. I commented with colleagues, if the algorithms were really so efficient how much we claim, there would be no single moment of privacy to these people. But still, we notice curious patterns in the data. Hearing this, I was very intrigued and wanted to know that standards were these. My colleagues showed some reports of anomalies and started investigating. With temporary access to the system, I discovered behaviors that escaped algorithmic detection. When I analyzed the data from a Uyghur community, I realized that there were moments of the day when certain standards did not correspond to the system expectations. After crossing information from different sources of surveillance, I discovered something surprising. The engineer who told me this could not completely explain the phenomenon to your superiors. I approached one of the senior analysts and asked, why do we have so many false negatives at these specific times? He hesitated, but answered discreetly, because the algorithms are trained to detect standards known. What we do not know, we cannot detect accurately. Why did this happen? When I examined more deeply, there was a pattern. Fascinating. I immediately noticed that the Uyghurs had developed micro-movements and gestures so subtle that the algorithms could not classify them as religious behaviors. The engineer reported that when he observed a elderly doing small movements with hands under the table during what it seemed being a normal break at work, surveillance systems detected nothing suspect. No one realized that this was an adapted form of prayer. From this discovery, I began to notice similar patterns in different places. All the most experienced analysts knew of these algorithmic limitations, but rarely discussed them, fearing that this revealed failures in the system that cost billions to develop. No one shared these observations openly because it could hurt your careers. I just watched and continued my work. As I analyzed more data, I realized that there was a human complexity that no algorithm could capture completely. I asked a more experienced colleague like the system dealt with these nuances, and he admitted that there were simply limitations, unavoidable technological. While trying to better understand these adaptations, I noticed a family that always gathered in a specific standard during meals, positioning itself from a form that, viewed from the cameras, created a standard similar to a table. Common, but it allowed small moments of devotion invisible to algorithms. I was impressed with this creativity and wanted to understand how these practices had been developed. One day, I found an interesting code in the system that I was trying to identify anomalous behaviors during meals. The program had difficulties in distinguishing between cultural food patterns and religious rituals disguised. I was intrigued and asked a team veteran if it was possible to create a system to detect absolutely everything. He smiled discreetly and said, the engineers, surveillance and the guardians are employed in a dance. We created an algorithm for detecting behavior, they adapt their behavior. It's an endless race. I then asked why the government kept investing so much in this technology. To my surprise, he replied, because the main objective is not to capture each manifestation of faith. It is to create the perception that everything is being observed. The fear. It does more for control than the technology itself. No one on the team really believed that the system could detect 100% of forbidden behaviors. The goal was to create a self-censorship environment. Most engineers knew that there were gaps in the algorithms. When a person needs to express something as fundamental as his faith, you will find invisible paths to do so. Our team detected an elderly. He used breathing patterns as a form of repetition of Allah names. How to create an algorithm that differentiates between a person just breathing and does anyone using breath as a form of prayer? It is impossible. The engineer. Then he reported that when he left that company, he realized that the true power surveillance was not in the technology itself, but on the psychological impact that caused in people. The constant feeling of being observed changed behaviors more effectively than real detection. The man concluded his account by saying that this experience changed completely your vision on technology and privacy. Friends, can install cameras in each corner and algorithms on each device. But when the connection with the divine is rooted in the heart, no surveillance system can monitor it completely. Friends, observing this reality, I remember the verse that says that Allah knows what is in the hearts, something that no human technology ever can reach. Write privacy is right or unshakable faith in the comments. Share this video to raise awareness about the abusive use of technology. We will meet again with a new video. Until then, that Allah protects those whose hearts they remain free even when their bodies are watched.